I think we can start.
All right.
So, 4th February was Cancer
Yeah.
Day, and the third Friday of February each year is to be known and celebrated as Caregivers Day. So we just sort of wanted to put up a live where we talk about both of these things, because cancer survivors and cancer patients require a lot of caregiving, not
Right.
just physically but also mentally, emotionally. They require a lot of support, right? Um, so when we talk about psycho-oncology, how do you think psycho-oncology supports both cancer patients and caregivers in sort of understanding the emotional challenges that come with a cancer diagnosis?
Right. So, okay. So, whenever we talk about psycho-oncology as a field, so it's relatively new in India, but it is actually it's thriving now. So, if you look at it, people are becoming more and more aware of it. Initially, see, mental health itself was a stigma in
Correct.
India a few years back. Not now. Now everybody is aware of it, and everybody likes to talk about it. So, mental health in a in a medical field, especially with a terminal illness, it was fairly a very new concept in India. But of course,
Correct.
now people are understanding the need and the demand for it. So, psycho-oncology actually is a multidisciplinary field if we talk about it.
Okay.
So, a psycho-oncologist will have to look at various ties and then anchor it all around the patient and the caregiver that's in the talk. So we look at the physical aspects, we look at the emotional aspects, we have to look at the social aspects that the disease also caters to. So it's a also the spiritual aspects if we talk about it. There are a lot of financial issues that happen, because cancer is a terminal illness. So, and it
Yes.
requires a lot of visits to the doctors, and other aspects to it also. So there are social issues. So, for example, if you are caregiving for somebody, you might have to leave your job, right? Because you're a
Yes.
full-time caregiver. Additionally, on the other hand, you might have to overtime work overtime also because of the financial responsibilities that happen. The simple things like transportation will
Right.
these are the simple things that we do not think that is a major thing, but if you look at it from the perspective of a caregiver and a cancer patient, it is a big issue, and these issues actually do affect the process. So a
Right.
psycho-oncologist therefore looks at all the aspects of it and works towards the holistic development of the patient along with the medical oncologists and everybody. So
Right.
that.
So even apart from psycho-oncology, when we talk about just catering to as a mental health professional to somebody who's been diagnosed with cancer or somebody's family member or close person who's been diagnosed with cancer, resilience is a very important
Right.
um, aspect
True.
and component of, be it resilience, be it willpower, but resilience really stands out because, like you correctly mentioned, terminal illness hai. So you know something is going to happen. And the scary part is you don't know when. So resilience
Exactly.
becomes very important, right? So when working with such patients, how how do you manage to build resilience? Because even a high resilient person would require somewhat a push or some realization that yeah they can get through this.
Right. So, as you correctly said, whenever we mention the word cancer, it is most often associated with various, what do I say, various attributes. I mean, we tend to put various associations with it.
Okay.
So, first of all, it is most often uncertainty. You never know
Yes,
when, how, and what will happen. Secondly, it's going to be
absolutely.
the fear of loss, you know, and fear and death, which is it's in itself a stigma. And we, all of us, we do not want to talk about negative things in our life. All we want to do is hear positive things, talk about
Absolutely.
positive things. So we tend to fare away from it. So that is why cancer in itself is a still talk about.
That's true.
Yeah,
Um,
right. So
like
talking
you,
about resilience, as you say, asked about resilience. So it's actually
yes,
very difficult because initially when the diagnosis happen, a family as a whole component gets affected by it. So
absolutely.
on the face of it, as a caregiver, you would want that I should put up a strong face to, to handle the care person I'm caregiving for. So it's very difficult. But of course,
Absolutely.
when you go through that journey, it initially builds up. It
Correct.
eventually builds up. Initially, there is a so if I may talk about it, so whenever we try to understand the process that a caregiver and a cancer patient goes through during any terminal illness, we try to understand it with the model that was given by Elisabeth Kübler-Ross. She gave a model of grief. We try to understand cancer with the emotional stages that you're going to go through. We try to understand it through it. So
Correct.
so it is basically there are five stages. So there is denial, then there's anger, then there's bargaining, then there is depression, and then finally there's acceptance.
Correct.
So to reach from denial to acceptance is a very long process. And I would not say
Absolutely.
that it applies to everybody and everybody goes through all the sequential stages, but somewhere or the other you do. First of
Yes.
all, whenever you will hear the word that you've been diagnosed with cancer, first thing that comes to our mind is okay, maybe the reports are not right, not correct. Maybe the
Correct.
doctor is not right. Maybe I should get different opinions or in a denial that this can't happen to me.
Yes.
To reach from that stage to the stage of finally accepting that okay, I have been diagnosed with this disease, and to move forward, resilience will come. Once you accept that
Absolutely.
you have got the diagnosis, then the resilience part will try to come in. So for
Correct.
resilience, I think it's a collective effort that has to come from a lot of people,
Absolutely.
and and I will say support groups are a major source of resilience, because I have been to support groups of breast cancer patients, and the resilience that they had, the optimism, the hope that they had, it was such an enriching experience. I did not expect, that it
Right.
would be such an enriching experience, but it was. So support
Yeah.
groups, because see, if I will tell you something, you would not connect, because you will think that okay, she's not going through what I'm going through, so she's just saying,
Absolutely.
talking is easier than actually going through it.
Yeah.
But when it is coming from somebody who is actually in that process, been through that thing, you will get encouraged. You will also get a hope.
Absolutely.
Okay, maybe I will also come through it. So survivor groups and group therapy, these are something that will help a lot in creating resilience, I
True.
think.
Like you correctly mentioned that you were surprised to see so much hope when you entered the support group, and very correctly mentioned before that when you think about cancer, you associate a lot of things, a lot of emotions, a lot of scenarios that you have in your head. While not being a first-hand or second-hand, person with experience on this, what do you think are some misconceptions that people might have about cancer patients or their caregivers? Is it like, because there are a lot of misconceptions around, especially when it comes to, and I'll come back to this, especially when it comes to the caregiver being a genetic daughter or son, because then you're afraid you might have it,
Yes.
right? And you're still caregiving for a parent and living in more of a fear that you might be in their place one day, right? So, are there any particular misconceptions that you might have come across when you were studying about psycho-oncology or when you were, working in the field?
Right. Right. So, correctly mentioned, genetic susceptibility is there. and the patients will definitely fear that now they are vulnerable to it. I did come across a patient who was, she really wanted to know if, sorry, she was not a patient, she was a caregiver. She really wanted to know if she will get the disease because the nature of the cancer is hereditary. So it was
Correct.
ovarian cancer. So she thought that, she wanted to know all the possibilities that are there for
Yeah.
her to not go through what her mother is going through.
Correct.
So yes, it is there, and I think misconceptions about it. So misconceptions about cancer patients, as such, I will not say that I have come across something like that, but in their head, I think many cancer patients who are not aware of how the medicines are working or how the process is working, they have misconceptions about certain things.
Okay.
So, and most often they think that okay, I have cancer, but they're not really aware of how it might have been caused, or
Correct.
what is the chemotherapy doing to them. And
Yes.
most of them many of them are curious, but some of them they are just like, okay, it's a process and I'm going through it. You can also say that they have lost hope, or
Correct.
maybe they they don't think it matters. So
Yes.
that thing also, you come across it. So I think that, and yeah, I think one misconception we can talk about is ki so we should not, never go on the face value, as I always believe. So you will see a patient, or you will see a caregiver, you will think that they're okay, they're completely managing everything well, and everything is going well for them, but you never know how they're dealing with things, and deep down they might be uh, repressing their emotions actually.
Absolutely.
And this thing I have seen. So they were they repress their emotions, and sometimes even they are not aware of this fact,
Right.
because we always want to avoid negative things, we always want to repress negative things.
Correct.
And as I mentioned, that maybe because you want to put up a strong front in front of the person that you're caregiving for, and
Right.
so that happens. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, like you mentioned, depression, and we also spoke about denial, right? So, these are two sort of defense mechanisms
Yeah.
uh, that your, mind and body do because you're going through something very negative, and something that is going to have a bigger impact than anything else, right? Have you perhaps observed any common coping mechanisms for both, for patients as well as caregivers, that they,
Yeah.
consciously adapt to when it comes to caregiving, or just going through the entire medical procedures?
Yeah. So I think I came across a lot of patients who used spirituality or religious activities as a coping mechanism. It is very
Correct.
prevalent, because
Right.
हमने सब कुछ भगवान पर छोड़ दिया है. This is
Hmm.
very prevalent, and it is and I think no coping mechanisms, according to me, are very personal in nature. So every
Correct.
individual will have their different set of coping mechanisms. There's no
Correct.
set rules कि ये coping mechanisms होने चाहिए. It's very individualistic, and I have seen the वो जैसे spirituality मैंने आपको बताया. I think most often support groups, that's also a
Yes.
form of coping
Coping
mechanism.
mechanism.
And yeah, so I will not say that there are many,
Correct.
like in the hospital settings also. So I did not see that कि बहुत सारे support groups जैसे weekly हो रहे हैं, या
Yes.
फिर for caregivers also. So I did not see that, but of course that provides a good place, a safe space for people to express what they're feeling, for both for caregivers and for cancer patients.
That's true.
So, apart from that, I think some people use their, I want to know about everything as a coping mechanism. So they will overindulge in getting information, you know,
Correct.
they'll try to get information from all sorts of places they can, because that is
Yes.
a coping mechanism for them. They
Correct.
want to get the best treatment that they can. And
Yes.
this can sometimes, this might be a problem sometimes, because sometimes what happens is you go to sources that are not really authentic,
Yeah.
and then you gain information from that, and that might scare you even more.
Correct.
So, for
Like
example,
Google.
I'm just having a headache. I will Google it. It will give me a great diagnosis, which will scare me even more.
Correct.
So, I
Yes.
think coping, this getting information is a good thing, for you, but from authentic sources. So, this is also a
Absolutely.
coping skill that people use. And some people actually do go for therapy. I have also come across
Right.
patients who do go for therapy while they are caregiving, because there's a change in roles that have happened. There's a shift in roles that have happened. They were the person who was receiving care from their mother or
Yes.
father. Now the roles have reversed. So
Yes.
that's also a very critical issue
Actually.
that can be seen sometimes. Yeah.
Um,
I think
have you
apart
seen
from
more?
that,
Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry,
many
sorry,
people do
continue.
yoga. No, it's fine. So many people also resort to, good diet, yoga. I've seen that,
Okay.
majorly with the geriatric population. I really
Yes.
saw that it was a coping skills में there was a mix of spiritual and religious activities and yoga. So they were always like, I do yoga,
Okay.
I stay fit, and it has
Yeah.
proven beneficial for me. So yeah, these things also matter.
Correct. Yes, I was just coming to that um, have you seen more caregivers take therapy or more patients? Because again, like we bring it up, cancer is a terminal illness, right? Like unless diagnosed at a very early stage where it can be treated, it most of the times becomes a terminal illness. Um, do you think seeking therapy for a caregiver is more prevalent in India, or seeking therapy for the patient himself or herself?
Uh, well, I think I can't, I can't be very sure of it, because I have not seen a good number of people going to therapy, especially in the cancer field. I have not seen that. So there were,
Okay.
I think I can really count, there were like two to three people, caregivers specifically, who were going to
Okay.
therapy. I have
Okay.
not come across a cancer patient who was going for therapy. And most of the times, when you go to them in the while they're in daycare or any setting, and you go to
Yeah.
them, so sometimes your presence is intimidating to them, and they're like, "Why is she here?" The look is on their face, because, of course,
Yeah.
you already have a physical illness, so you
Absolutely.
were not ready to come in terms with associating it with sub some mental issues or emotional issues. So a
Correct.
presence of a psychologist will always bring in the fact that, okay, it's a psychologist, okay, something wrong with my mind, because I've seen, like, when I went to visit a patient, I was talking to him, and all I could hear was the way he was responding, the tone and the body language. It was like he wanted me to believe that everything is fine with him. Yes, yes, yes. So a constant
Okay.
yes, and the
Yeah.
tone of the voice and the body language. So he just wanted to get done with me. This
Correct.
happens. Actually, this
Yeah.
happens. So uh, I have not really seen a good number of people going
Cancer
to
patient.
therapy,
Correct.
but yes, it is there. I mean, I think eventually, because since I said it's still in the infancy stage, though it is
Yeah.
now people are getting to know it, but it's still in the infancy stage if you look at it.
Absolutely.
So I think eventually this concept of whole therapy will come for the,
Yes.
yeah, oncology settings.
Um, coming a little bit more towards caregivers,
Yeah,
while seeking therapy is for sure most of the times beneficial for them, because they themselves are going through a very huge emotional toll.
right.
Um, correct. And there's a lot of burnout that is seen with caregivers.
Yeah.
There are so many studies that talk about burnout.
Hmm.
Is there anything that you would suggest, just basing off your experience with, seeing patients, seeing caregivers,
Hmm.
that something that they can just perhaps do on a daily or a regular basis at home? Because most caregivers are either at home or in a hospital setting,
Hmm.
right? Something that they can do anywhere that would just, help them with the burnout that they might be reaching.
Yes. Right. So, you correctly mentioned. So caregivers do face burnout, and so most of the times caregivers often immerse themselves completely in the role of a caregiver.
Yes,
So
correct.
this might give them physical, emotional stress, and they might not pay attention to it because all of their focus is on the person they're caregiving for. So
Absolutely.
that happens, and because of that, you face burnout, which you correctly mentioned. So I will say for the caregivers, especially, first thing you need to understand, accept your emotions.
Yes.
So whatever you're feeling, so first you need to understand that there are even if the emotions you think are negative or positive, does not matter. Try to understand and accept that, and do not think that if it is appropriate for me to express it, because I have seen caregivers who thought that it was not right to appropriate to express this emotion, particularly a negative emotion.
Yes,
So you need to first understand what you're feeling and accept it, only then you can manage it better,
that's
right?
true.
Yeah. I think taking out some time for yourself during the whole day. As a caregiver, you have the responsibility of caregiving for the patient 24 by 7.
Yes,
But there should be a time that you need to devote solely and wholly for yourself and do things that make you happy, or maybe, a hobby, just to keep in touch with your own self,
correct.
something that helps you calm down, because in daily basis on daily basis also, sometimes when we're stressed, we might do art, or we might do art mandala, we might listen to music. These are some of the things that make us calm.
That's
So special,
absolutely.
same goes for the caregiver. They should take out time for themselves during the whole day, even if it's just half an hour. So that then eat well. I think diet also plays a good role, because see, physical if your physical health is good, then your mental health will also be good, then your emotional health also will be good, and you will be fit, and you will only be able to take care of somebody else when you yourself are physically fit. So eat
Yes.
well, because sometimes when we are burdened with responsibility and facing too much stress, we tend to avoid, the first thing that we tend to avoid is our diet. That should not happen. I think adequate rest, get adequate rest. That's also important, because as I said, if you're physically not fit, you won't be able to do what you aim to do. And then I think if you can take a break for yourself. So
Hmm.
I think most people will say, it's easier said than done, but
Absolutely.
you can. So there are three types of caregivers. There are primary, secondary, and tertiary caregivers. So
Okay.
sometimes the secondary caregiver can take over, and you can take a day off for yourself. That movie that
Yes.
you've been wanting to see, or the cafe that you've been wanting to go for it. You know, and I think people, some will say, they will not go out because they have that constant guilt in their mind. If I go out,
Hmm.
I am not fulfilling my responsibility. But
Yes.
I think it is okay to give yourself a day. It is okay to give yourself that break, a much deserved break.
Yes.
And because, as I've been constantly saying, are if you are completely fine, only then you can do what you aim to do. So I think
Absolutely.
these and yeah, I see or the cafe that you've been wanting to go for it, you know. And I think people, some some will say, they will not go out because they have that constant guilt in their mind. If I go out,
Right.
I am not fulfilling my responsibility. But
Yes.
I think it is okay to give yourself a day. It is okay to give yourself that break, a much deserved break.
Yes.
And because, as I've been constantly saying, are if you are completely fine, only then you can do what you aim to do. So I think
Absolutely.
these and yeah, I think as most importantly, ask for help. We
Yes.
we shy away from asking for help. Why? How can I ask for help? And
Yes.
I think I mean it is not necessary, but most of the times, uh, male caregivers, they might think it's actually they might think that it is their responsibility to do it, and they might
Absolutely.
not express their feelings and
Correct.
shy away from asking for help. That can happen.
Yes.
And find a support. That support can be in anybody.
Yes.
That can be in your friend, that can be in your spouse, that can be in a support group. If you
Yes.
can't go out, join an online support group. That can be in a mental health therapist, anybody. So you need to find support. I think that is
Absolutely.
what will help you throughout the journey. Because sometimes when we're going through a stressful situation, uh, even the slightest things will seem
Yes.
bigger. So when you have
Absolutely.
that constant support with you, they will always try to calm you down. They will always watch out for you, and then
Correct.
you will realize that you know what, you can go through it. And the
Yes.
resilience that we had been talking about, that
Yes.
will also build up when you join a support group,
Absolutely.
or support, no, not only support group, but support from a friend or from anybody. So I
Yeah.
think
Seeking
these
support
are
is really
some
important.
things. Yeah.
Correct. So just to sort of, bring this conversation back to everybody except for who is the cancer patient or the caregiver. We as a third person, or just observers of these people, like you said, that we might, take them at face value a lot of times. That okay, I'm not sure what this person is going through, but they might be actually going through a lot of, burnout in themselves, a lot of guilt. What is something that you believe that we as individuals could do to just sort of extend a little bit of support to these caregivers, to these cancer patients?
I think talk, that's the biggest support that you can give them.
Absolutely.
Uh, Listening to them, them having somebody to listen to them is for in itself a very therapeutic process. So if I mean, I am sure you will also agree, being from this field. So if if for us also, we go through, we handle a lot of stress,
Yes. Yes.
because sometimes from our sessions also we tend to carry forward that stress with us. But if we have
Absolutely.
that one person who we can talk to, that person just listen to us, it actually calms us down. So I think talking is something that's very important. And within that talk, try to encourage them to understand their
Absolutely.
emotions. I think uh, unless we try to understand what we are feeling, we can't help ourselves. We can't, if we can't understand, we can't acknowledge, we won't be able to manage it. अगर हमें समझ ही
Absolutely.
नहीं आएगा हम उस स्पाइरल में घुस चुके हैं, बाहर कैसे निकलेंगे वहां से. So I think talk and communication is the best thing that we can do as individuals, extending support to them. So that's one
Absolutely.
thing. Apart from that, if you have if you can help them with the decisions regarding, if they, so for example, somebody is going having a difficult financial, they have, they're having difficulty in financial terms, so you can help them suggest resources, or like there are various NGOs that fund cancer
Yeah.
patients, and so you can help them. So for example, somebody is facing little issues that for example, a caregiver wants to take a day off. You can
Mm.
care, you can you can take the responsibility of the primary
Yeah.
caregiver that day. So these are little things that we can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was absolutely lovely talking to you.
Same.
Is there anything else that
Yeah.
you would like to add? Maybe something I would have missed in our conversation. Is there anything else
No,
that you'd
I,
like to add?
yeah. So I think Komal, you've been a wonderful host, and you've tried to cover all the aspects that were needed to, talked about. And I would just like to add that caregiving is, the cancer is a long journey and a difficult one, but you can come over it with the help of caregivers, with the help of mental health professionals and everybody. Just try to acknowledge what you're feeling, and I think things will be easier if you try to acknowledge what you're feeling rather than pushing them away, rather than pushing yourself away. And please don't forget that cancer is a separate entity. You yourself are a different entity. Do not associate your identity completely with cancer.
Right.
That might happen. So I think that's important.
That's very important. I think, like you said, not just for cancer patients, but you also mentioned that you are a person apart from being a caregiver, right?
Yeah,
And I feel like labeling yourself
right.
as, oh, I have cancer or, oh, I'm a caregiver only adds on uh, to the negative thoughts, the overwhelming feelings that you're already
Yeah,
having. So I absolutely agree on that.
mm.
It's really, really important that, we be very mindful of our words.
Right,
Um,
right.
when just calling somebody else a caregiver, or even yourself for that matter. Um, right, so it was
I
lovely, lovely talking
Yeah,
to you.
same here, same
Um,
here, same here, Komal.
Thank you so much for joining in. It was a little last minute when we had reached out,
Yeah,
but I'm glad you
yeah,
could be there.
yeah. I'm glad we
Um,
connected.
yeah.
Yeah,
So am I. Hopefully, we'll do more collaborations in the future.
definitely, definitely. Yeah,
And thank you for everyone who joined
yeah,
in. I hope you all gained
yeah.
something out of it.
Thank you, everybody.
Um, because while I almost knew all of these things, right? Like they're out there, but it's very important to realize and talk about this
Definitely.
because we need
I
to
think,
remind ourselves,
yeah,
right? Even though we might know, we don't remind ourselves enough.
definitely. And I think you yourself have answered a question that you asked me, how to help a caregiver or a cancer patient, as a third person. And I think we on this field are doing that thing. Creating awareness about it is the first thing
That's
that has to happen.
absolutely,
And I think we have, today we have contributed, if we can contribute even 1% to that,
absolutely.
I think we have done our work.
Even if one person even if one person gains something out of this, it's a win.
Definitely.
For me personally, at
Yeah.
least. So, yes, lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for
Same here,
joining
Komal.
in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye. Good night.
Bye bye. Good night.